Some journalists complain that Dark Souls difficulty prevents players who are bad at games from enjoying the experience. Some people just can't enjoy hard games. But do some players get so good at games to a point where they can't enjoy easy ones anymore? I'm sure that to a lot of people who play difficult games like Dark Souls and Spelunky regularly, Kirby is a bit of a cakewalk. Should it stay this way? Well, these games are built upon the idea of difficulty, and changing that difficulty changes the game's entire identity. Difficulty is how these games express themselves, and most people agree that Dark Souls should not have an easy mode. But what makes Kirby different? Kirby is the polar opposite. It's designed to be easy. Does changing its difficulty ruin the experience? Well, if you asked me a year ago, I probably would have said yes. The Kirby games should maintain their simplicity. They should be easy. But in the newest Kirby game, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, the developers made the decision to include multiple difficulties, and this is what got me thinking. Why would Kirby add an alternate difficulty if the game is meant to be easy? And the two modes themselves aren't really that different from each other anyways. Either add more difficulties or just have one. It's almost as if the developers couldn't make up their minds. If you're gonna add multiple modes, then why not add more difficult ones? Personally, as someone who enjoys hard games, I would have loved to see a hard mode here, but it seems that a lot of people disagree with this, and I'll get to that in a moment. Does adding a hard mode to Kirby affect the people who enjoy playing on the easy mode? I mean, I wouldn't think so, but I would love to hear your reasoning in the comments, whichever way you lean. So, unfortunately I made the very bad decision to take this discussion to Twitter, stating that I felt the game's platforming, combat, and difficulty options could be improved. And a lot of people disagreed with me, so the rest of this video will be me reading and reasoning with these replies on Twitter. Do note that I have not played the entire game, only the demo, but I have watched people get a lot further in the game, and I am aware of this harder difficulty at the end, but still, I would love to see more options from the beginning, just so that there's more variety for people who are experienced with platforming. Expecting all of these to drop on YouTube in 2 to 3 years and all be 4 hours long. The bottom one is kinda correct though. You're telling me they couldn't have done a bit more with it? Difficulty options, combat, and platforming could all use improvement. Haven't really heard anyone call it a masterpiece either. I feel like calling it a waste of potential undermines what every Kirby game is. Even the best games in the franchise end up without a real difficulty selector, with Star Allies' Boss Rush being the only one I can think of which is more so a modifier for how many heals you get. This is a great opportunity to change that. It's a big leap for the franchise. Why not change some other things too? You're saying this as if the franchise itself isn't allowed to be hard because that's how it's always been. The franchise has also always been in 2D. I just think Kirby is not a franchise that needs it in the main game. It's part of the brand to be a simple game for beginners, and I think that having the extra modes be more challenging is enough for Kirby. While Kirby and the Forgotten Land is one of the most exciting games for the Kirby franchise, why not make it more accessible? It seems the developers wanted to do something like this by adding multiple modes, but ultimately decided to keep it restricted to just 2. Why not go all the way and make it accessible for players who are used to more difficult platformers? If the game is designed in this way to have multiple modes, then it's probably easy enough to add harder ones, so I'm just confused why they didn't go along with it. The game literally has difficulty options. What are you talking about? Yeah, and the difficulty options are basically just easy and not as easy. As someone who really enjoys hard games, I would have appreciated more options. Where's hard mode? A game doesn't need to be difficult to be good. Nobody's complaining that Mario Odyssey doesn't have difficulty options. At least this game has them, not to mention Ultimate Cup Z. Yeah, but Super Mario Odyssey's platforming mechanics are intricate enough that you don't need an easy mode, you just play how you want to play. That's another thing I wish Forgotten Land would improve on. Its platforming lacks depth. And if a game decides it's going to include difficulty options in the first place, then why only these two? The options aren't that far apart from each other, frankly. The Kirby series as a whole is quite literally baby's first platformer by design though. You're asking for something that was never going to be offered. This argument makes sense for every other Kirby game, but not really for this one because it's designed with multiple difficulties. Do you ask for an easy mode for a Souls game? No, because it's not the point. Kirby games are meant to be easy. But you're forgetting that Kirby made the deliberate decision to add another option, all because people complain Kirby games are too easy. What's so bad about having harder options for people who are looking for a challenge? Does it somehow make the game worse? It's not the point of the game and shouldn't be looked upon as a negative. The Kirby games, much like the Souls games, are made with a deliberate difficulty identity. Deliberate difficulty identity, even though the game has more than one option for difficulty? I'm just saying that if the game is going to have difficulty options in the first place, why not have more of them? Because they still want it to be easy, they just included an option for it to be slightly less easy. You gotta ask yourself, if they include a difficulty slide, why are both still pretty much easy? There's a reason for that. They didn't forego a hard mode just because they forgot. Yeah, I will say it's kind of perplexing why they even bother, given both modes are easy. Perhaps they did it to just shut people up by having it in there, superficially. Genuinely, they couldn't commit to either option, so they had to do it in a way where it doesn't change much for the franchise. It sounds funny, but it's true that they most likely did do this so that people would shut up about it. Well, unfortunately, them adding another difficulty didn't shut people up this time, and made me rethink the whole adding a hard mode to Kirby thing. Regardless, I'm still curious about what the people of YouTube think, so tell me what you agree with in the comments. Frankly, I might still be totally wrong, I just hope I made my argument more clear. Also, I know this is a bit different than my typical video, so tell me what you thought of it in the comments. Alright, well, that's it for this video.